So let's summarize this into basically the key points we need to take away from this episode. First, copper appears to be altered in Parkinson's disease. We can definitely say that. And specifically, there's lower copper levels found in the Substantia nigra, which is the key area of the brain affected by Parkinson's. Second, ceruloplasmin may also be an important part of the story. It is a copper-containing protein, therefore it does play a major role in iron metabolism, which is also something else that's altered in Parkinson's. Which brings us to point number 3. Iron accumulation is an important feature of PD, particularly in the Substantia nigra, again, that same area of the brain. There definitely appears to be, at least, a relationship between dysfunction of ceruloplasmin and abnormal handling of iron in the body. Fourth, copper can interact directly with alpha-synuclein, and thus far the research is experimental, but it does suggest that copper can influence alpha-synuclein aggregation and toxicity. Lastly, number 5, we don't yet know whether copper abnormalities are a cause of Parkinson's, simply a coincidence that comes along with it, or one piece of a much larger disease process throughout the body. So should one get tested for copper or ceruloplasmin levels? Maybe. There's not really enough of a push to say that that's truly something that should be monitored over time. And again, a normal copper level in the blood serum does not necessarily reflect what's going on in the brain. Based on the current evidence, copper supplementation is likely not going to be helpful either, because again, if you're looking at serum levels, you might increase serum levels of copper, but you're not necessarily going to do anything to impact the amount of copper, or therefore iron, found in the Substantia nigra of the brain. Overall, it's just important to remember that copper metabolism is something that appears to be abnormal in Parkinson's disease, but we don't know what the direct correlation or connection is at this point, just that it's there. The big picture here is that Parkinson's biology is way more complicated than just one deficiency like copper. Now, while it's important to acknowledge it and discuss it in this episode, it definitely does not necessarily help to narrow things down to one thing, being a cause or being a contributing factor. Is it helpful to know? Definitely. But there's so much more to it than that. We've got dopamine toxicity as a potential, where the concept of dopamine actually being stored in the dopamine producing neurons, and that's what's actually resulting in cell death. Could that be related to copper levels? Not sure. Possibly. One way or the other, though, dopamine toxicity is definitely a prominent subject that is taking on some new theories in how we deal with Parkinson's disease. If you haven't seen my previous episode on dopamine toxicity and my interview with Dr. Jonathan Satner-Bernstein on his medication that they're doing research on, definitely check those out. We also see all these other abnormalities, the mitochondria and the cells of the dopamine-producing cells, alpha-synuclein aggregation, various forms of oxidative stress, inflammation throughout the body, and of course now we've addressed the iron, the copper, even calcium levels, the function of lysosomes within the neurons in the brain, protein clearance from the body, and many other systems that are impaired with Parkinson's. So none of these things independently operate. They're all connected. And there's also numerous gene mutations that have been linked with Parkinson's disease. There's LRRK2, there's Parkin, there's PINK1, just to name a few. So just to try to wrap all this up, because there's a lot to think about here, I do want to thank the subscriber for bringing this up and leading us down this rabbit hole, because it's definitely something worth looking into. So please leave it in the comments if you'd like me to dig into this deeper. I'd like to talk a little bit more about neuromelanin potentially in the future and that connection with Parkinson's. Maybe we can look into copper peptides and see if that might have some kind of improvement in the body or in the brain. We might even look into the various enzymes that copper can influence, particularly as it relates to Parkinson's disease. And some of them, I can tell you already from not even talking about it in this episode, they actually relate directly to dopamine or dopaminergic pathways. At least one of them does. So let me know about all that. I'd love to do some more episodes that might be able to deep dive into one of those segues.